actually have it in the car as well. It might crash my computer. Gotta upload the entire C6 Corvette model. Plus, I made a bunch of changes since the model, so it's gonna need to update that. Good sign. The right side loading bar. Oh, yeah. Don't crash. Communicate. Perfect. I haven't been on YouTube in a while. When you build a full race car, you have to... Which camera do you want me to look at? Jack? Did you put that there?
Blooper reel.
Hey guys, so I haven't seen you in a while. I know you guys have seen Joel and the Corvette and all that stuff, but I'm going to show you something that I've been working on for the last while. I'm going to say 6 months. Actually, I'm going to say a couple of years because I've been running different variations of this gas pedal in my car through Europe and then through the LZ World Tour, which we won a month or so ago. After just a couple tiny little revisions that I made to it, we have the final product, and I've got a bolt-in version, which is for a C6, and then I've got a universal version, which we're gonna be able to essentially bolt into any car with some mild fabrication required. So the reason I'm gonna go over this is because it really outlines the design process and how complex it really can be. Let me tell you, like, we didn't have bearings in this. We didn't really have limits for the max and min. We didn't really have a decent spring setup. We actually had what was a Vibrant Performance exhaust spring going on an angle to a bracket. And getting the adjustments and the heights and all of the perfect ranges and then the pedal pitch was, like, needless to say, extremely challenging, and I didn't really like any of the options that were online. So coming up to a final product, you see this as a $200 to $300 item, but then on the back end, there's actually unlimited amounts of value that have been put into this design. From what I wanted to be was, I care a lot about a really light pedal because I want to feel exactly what the throttle plate is doing, and I want to be able to modulate that really accurately. So the spring pressure and return has to be so fine. There's actually just the slightest bit of drag right now. We haven't greased this spring, but we're going to put grease on them. Even just that, but right now this is like already the best that I've ever felt from a gas pedal. The bearings that get put in here, the spacing, the tolerances on all of these components. And then to set my lead and trail, that's drifting. These are essentially bump stops for your lead and your trail, I guess, but your max and your min. This is so critical for the frequency or the, how would you say that, Pat? The range.
Ratio.
The ratio.
Yeah.
There's an even better word than that. Anyways, the amount that you move the pedal versus the amount that the throttle is opening, you can really set with our ratio and the throw of the pedal with these limits that we have designed. And then we have these set screws to lock in your position. And then I know some people are going to be asking, we actually did buy an electric pedal sensor, and we are going to make one that connects to the block, but for right now this is the cable version. So there's actually parts of this pedal that I can actually show you better on the computer than I can in reality, but I wanted you guys to obviously see the final product. And then this plate is what connects to the stock Corvette. So this one would bolt right into my C6. And we have a couple guys testing the C5. If you see a C5 option on the website, that means that it works based on our testing. But ultimately, let's take a look at the computer, and I'm going to show you some of the range, height, ratio, pitch. The pedal also goes side to side for bringing it close to the tunnel or bringing it close to the brake pedal. I was really picky on the proximity to the brake pedal, mostly because my feet are kind of big. And then the height at which this was relative to the pedal, I was also somewhat surprisingly picky on that as well. So there's a difference in height, obviously, when you apply the brake. Basically where the brake starts to engage on the calipers, that's actually the height that you want the gas pedal to be at. And none of these things I really knew about or cared. It was always just built into the car, but you really start to care about it when you design something like this. So I know I'm talking a lot. I know a lot of you guys appreciated that and some of you guys don't. So let's look at this model here. Okay, so on the pedal, like I was talking about, there was a challenging aspect in getting the ratio adjustment separate from the height adjustment. So with this, we have a height adjustment overall of around 2.5 inches. And the way that that works is we have multiple holes on this back plate that line up with some flathead cap screws. This plate is what connects to the Corvette. This plate, however, is sandwiched in between. This is what grabs the cable and actually determines your ratio. Don't mind that moving. So we're able to shorten the ratio, meaning we could get a ton of pedal travel and it wouldn't pull our throttle blade that much, or we can get the full amount of ratio, essentially, where we're going to pull the cable a lot with not that much movement of the pedal. And then the reason why these holes are actually slightly higher than this is because depending on where you have your pedal set to, these holes line up in different planes. And then the way that I actually set mine up was I went one hole above the slot, because when I compress the pedal all the way down, it keeps the cable relatively straight if you start slightly higher. So the amount of range that you have with setting the perfect ratio on your throttle is huge on this, and it's something that you just don't get with any other pedals. And then really we designed it to be like neutral. Neutral is going to be your base starting point and is what's going to work for most people. Figuring out a spring configuration that was going to fit really tidy was pretty interesting. That took quite a bit of messing around. So we have this little kick tab that you just bend out with a punch, and then it lines up with a nice McMaster car spring, and you can see how that works. So that works really well, and these bump stops are adjusted and then set in place with this little set screw here. These are what's called RZ4 bearings, so it's basically just a bearing, ball bearing on both sides that takes a 3/8 bolt. Everything on this is Imperial. 832 screws, quarter 20 threads, 3/8 threads. The reason why we did that was because of the bearings and because of the spring windings, and a lot of the parts that are readily available just happen to be Imperial. As soon as you go to a metric for some of this stuff, it just triples in price for no reason. So this is a piece of alloy steel bent at 90 degrees. This 90-degree bend was actually something that took a while to figure out whether we wanted on the bottom, on the top, and we tried all of the variations. This pedal face can go left to right. This is an adjustment that I originally did not have, but adding it made it all the difference when actually placed into a Corvette. And then this pitch is also super important. I originally had the pedal perfectly parallel with the body, and what I found was when I got to pushing the pedal around this position, I was using a little too much toe, a little more toe than I would have wanted, because I think in my car I have it set to about here as my start, and then I have it ending about there. So I actually wanted this pedal to start at a different pitch. Just bear with me while I just mess with this. Hold on. So I start with my pedal like that, so that when I push it all the way down, I'm still applying a downward, forward pressure. And all these things you just would not think about when you're designing or making a gas pedal, but it all really matters. And then I have tested all of this fitment within the CAD model of a Corvette, and you can kind of see where that's sitting. So I actually run this with this pedal face over one hole, and I just found that for me it was the best position. And I also have quite tall feet, so I have this pedal in this configuration, but the stock pedal is actually one set of holes below this, so the bottom of it would be about here. But I was pushing kind of mid-foot when I had it in the OEM height. Actually, the OEM one is on the floor, but basically similar to like an OEM configuration where the gas pedal hangs quite a bit lower. I find it felt way better to have it set up like this. So the fact that we can adjust all these things, so essentially I'm running mine in one hole up this position, and it would be totally easy to do for somebody with a smaller foot size to run it in the one position below. So the configurations that you can have with this for what we're going to be selling this for, after doing our bill of materials, like I said, it's probably going to be between 200 and 300 US. It's crazy the value you get. You really don't realize how much the throttle control matters, but it is the only thing that makes the car go forward. So when you put that much weight on it, it's as important as brake pedal feel, obviously, but then that is as important as the engine, the drivetrain, the suspension. Literally anything that you're using to control the vehicle is as important as the components on the vehicle. That's why we spend so much time on making something like this. So it's going to be cool to have a product like this on the market. It's simply just a problem-solving product where anytime I've posted about this, even though it's not for sale, I just get asked a million questions regarding, is it going to be for sale? Can it be universal? Can I put it in a Mustang, a 240, a 350, whatever it is? The answer will be, with some slight fabrication, yes. And then for obviously Corvettes, it'll be a direct bolt-in situation. So that's just a cool product that I've been working on intermittently. This hasn't been like my sole focus for the last several months. It's just been something that I've been implementing into my own car. Hope you guys enjoy it. I wanted to show you the details of it. And this is going to be available within the next week or so. We have like 10 of them in stock, but we have made the machine components, this specific part. We've made 50 of these, which is the bulk of the product. The rest of it is just laser cut components. So this is really what took the longest. And as you can see, it's a really nice anodized piece. Sweet 3D chamfers around everything. And then the bearings, the tolerances and the bearing fit are all very satisfying. Come on. So we can take these bearings and they kind of just clip in there. It's not a press fit. It doesn't need to be a press fit because we're constraining all of this by squeezing everything together in the assembly, which you can see there. So if I wanted to set these, I could show you. I can just turn this bolt out and then you can see now stops at a different position. And I can do the same thing on the bottom, lock it in with a hex drive Allen key. And then this spring, was pretty happy with how that went. You can see how freely this thing sits, and then you can just bend this spring down, snap it in place, it catches it, and that'll never come off. So really excited to show you guys this, for you guys to get it, and that's it. See you guys in the next video.